Good morning, LinkedIn. Welcome to Let's Build Daily. I am your host, Chris Carolan. Happy Monday, June 24th. Halfway through the year already. I can't believe it. But I'm loving the journey. Either way. And thinking hard about, my place in the ecosystem and where I want to go, uh, and how best to help solve for this knowledge gap that we're dealing with right now. That's causing just an overwhelm from everywhere in the ecosystem, inside the walls of HubSpot, outside in the partner ecosystem, users, people. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that there's no longer much control over the HubSpot narrative, by HubSpot or the ecosystem. We've come a long way from HubSpot is the marketing automation platform, in which I think that was, for 15, maybe almost 15 years, that was true. And it still, dominates in that department. But the rest of the platform, the product updates, the 6 hubs, what does that mean? What does that make HubSpot? And it would be nice if everybody just understood right away what customer platform meant, but nobody does. And I'll say that's why one of the reasons we're starting this week. George B. Thomas and I join us Wednesday at 10 o'clock Central for what is a customer platform. We talk through, how this monster of a customer platform can be viewed, should be viewed, not a point solution anymore. All right. And I think it starts there. So join us if you want to hear a way to think about this differently. And get out of the quick win, get off the quick win, hamster wheel, whether you're selling HubSpot, server site HubSpot, or buying HubSpot, using HubSpot. Everybody's gotta make this shift. But how do you make it? And this is where I think HubSpot coach, and why I'm starting to use that phrase, comes into play. Somebody who can help you define strategically for your business, the what, the why, the how, the where, the when, all these questions. And I had an interesting conversation last week, a number of them, but something that's coming to the surface is there's not really a lot of people, especially when it comes to HubSpot, that are incentivized, trained, or empowered to say, should you do that thing? And I've got the product updates window up here because I was thinking about a way to frame this, how to contextualize it, give you an anchor, because I know I can, get a little too deep sometimes, too deep in the weeds, too focused on theory. So we're going to try this because this is one of the things that's overwhelming everybody right now. And lo and behold, we've got some really great examples of the reasons that you might ask the questions that I posed in the post, which are, should you do it at all? Should you do it with HubSpot? Should marketing be in charge of it? And I use that department specifically. Should you build, buy, or bake? I'm getting alliterative, and the last one could be develop. And number 5, should you change? Right. So based on the answers to the first 4 questions, is it worth it to change? Um, so looking at these first couple of updates, uh, not small. And I don't have a ton of experience with Zapier, but I know why people use it. And this has been a great example recently of, somebody came to me um, with the goal of, we need a centralized place to store our customer data. We need to get a centralized view. So that's a great step, an easy answer to the first question. Should you do it at all? Yes. If you do not have a centralized view of your customer, a centralized place for data, you should definitely do that. Like, that should not be a long conversation to have. Should you do it with HubSpot? Well, they have a bunch of apps in play. And good morning, Caleb. Caleb says he has been waiting for this support for years. So Christmas morning for Caleb. We now have the support. Good to see you, man. And this is a good example, right? Continuing on the journey, right? So he's got this friend has a bunch of different apps, but there's no kind of rhyme or reason to how they come together until you get to the money side of things, the accounting, the quoting, right? They kind of got like a makeshift CRM related to their proposal, software. But he wants to consolidate systems. Should he do that with HubSpot? Of course, he should do that with HubSpot. But which level of HubSpot? And this is where there's a combination of, understanding from the boss that, we shouldn't do HubSpot until we're 10 million plus. It costs too much. It's too complex, and that's the things, like, if you just buy it and you get no help, both of those things are likely true, right? Especially if you're buying it for the purposes of being a point solution, like an email tool only, or, the countless other quick wins that we hope to get, right? But at the same time, this person is knowledgeable, can knows his way around software, and they have Zapier as one of their tools. So in order to get around some maybe irrational budget concerns, but also get him on a path, HubSpot Starter is going to be great. It'll be great for him, and he'll be able to rely on Zapier for one of the common reasons you'll need to upgrade to Pro in HubSpot, which is automations. All right, not a long-term solution here, but if that's where we got to start, that's where we got to start. Starter is not be careful how I say this. No, it's just not simple, right? It's not as simple as you'd like it to be. It's not just because it's a lower level of HubSpot. It doesn't mean you still get 5 hubs. You still get 6 hubs, right? You can still build a website. You can still send emails. You can, still, use the CRM, for the sales team, and do meetings links. You can still manage tickets. You can still do some data cleanup. You can still build a website, I'll say it again, right? Starter website is going to crush, most of the things you have access to if you're connecting it to the rest of the system. Commerce Hub, how could I leave it? You still have access to payment links, right? But how does all that stuff work together? So when we think about the usual case, and definitely in my case, where I'm the marketing guy, marketing leader, I'm bringing in HubSpot because I know it's going to solve for things. It's also going to, naturally bring some people together in a more collaborative way than they're used to, or maybe even want to. But once you start talking about payment links and help desk and sales process, good luck if marketing is in charge of the success of this tool, because they are not in charge of the success of these other teams, nor can they control, what those leaders think or how people are held accountable, right? This is why RevOps is a thing in terms of having, an external, somebody who doesn't wear the hat, have a big label on their head like, hey, I'm marketing, I'm sales, I'm service. Because whoever's on the other teams, even though they try their hardest not to judge the book by its cover, if I'm in sales and you're marketing, trying to sell me on something that I should be doing in HubSpot, I'm automatically applying your marketing lens over that request. And it's immediately down a couple notches on the priority list. If I'm in charge of sales and I'm talking to service, right? Service is like, I just know you want the commission. I know you care about margin, and it doesn't matter if the customers aren't onboarding correctly, blah, blah, blah. There is a veil there. There's a lens. If it's service, talking to sales, oh, you just want to give away everything. Like, why would we do that? That's not going to make sense. And even though we don't want to do that, that is like, it's just ingrained from all these years of working, uh, side by side, but not together. Right? I'll put it like that. So, should you build, buy, or bake? Right? In this case, we're talking about buying starter, right? But a lot of people, maybe he could build more into Zapier and on the other tools that they have, like, Active Campaign and ClickFunnels, maybe the proposal software. I've seen, the last gig, I came in and they're trying to turn the CPQ into a CRM. They're building CRM into the CPQ. It's not built to do that. So yeah, it's not going to work out very well, right? Just because it's got customer data in it doesn't mean it can handle the needs of a modern CRM, right? Or should you develop something your own? You're tired of being, you know, uh, hoodwinked by all of these platforms. You've seen 1,000 Salesforce instances, none of them worked out well. So we're gonna build our own, either spreadsheet kingdom or something that we can control, um, while not worrying about the key person risk when one person does it and maintains it, and then they retire, and then it takes 4 people to replace that one person, right? Happens with websites and homegrown CRMs, all the time, right? So we're going to call that one baking or developing your own solution, because the first time you develop it, it's not going to go exactly as planned. I'm not a baker myself, but I've heard baking follows a similar path, uh, in terms of not always knowing how it's going to turn out, but you get better over time. And this is our continuous improvement happens on the non-customer data side everywhere, the production side, the process side, when people aren't involved, because it's easier. It's most things are data in equals data out. A plus B equals C every single time. I don't need extra irrational human variables. I don't need to worry about those because they don't exist. It's physics, it's math, right? It's governed by the laws of the universe. Uh, I can build a system around that and improve it in a very black and white kind of way. When you're building systems to support um, customer behavior inside and outside of the company, it doesn't work that way. But you still have to manage it. Uh, so let's say, so we've answered the questions. Yes, we should have a centralized place for customer data. Yes, we should do it with HubSpot. No, marketing should not be in charge of it. In this case, the systems director who has access to all the other systems already, who's winding it down, not necessarily IT. A little bit different from IT in that we want these systems. We're thinking about the strategic success of these systems, not just making sure they work, right? We're going to buy HubSpot, but are we going to buy somebody else to do it for us, right? In this case, that should be a no, because this is where the role of the HubSpot coach is guiding the decision, is helping answer these questions. Um, like we know which HubSpot you should buy, and we know that you can build stuff yourself. Now it's about teaching, education, strategic usage without the trial and error, right? We're gonna help you bake it, but we're not gonna bake it for you, I guess, if we're still on that analogy. So all that adds up to, should you change, right? Is this a change worth making? Well, it comes back to number one. How powerful is it going to be to get the data in one place? How many people is this going to impact in a positive way, in a negative way? People who are used to these other systems, right? Is HubSpot really going to be okay with Starter? Or are all these pay gates going to get in your way and even if you don't need them, make you think you do, and make it harder for all the users to think that Starter is enough and kill adoption? And I think that we're all underestimating the impact of these paywalls right now as they continue to pop up left and right. I think there's other ways to alert people to what's new, but time will tell. Building, buying, or baking? Honestly, we're doing a little bit of all of it, right? And when you have to do that by yourself, and when you just choose to buy, and then building and baking is on you, it's going to be a tough time. It's going to be a tough time, no matter which system you're adding. In this case, the coach, is going to tell you which systems to wind down, when, how you replace pieces of HubSpot, the functionality those systems are doing, strategically, how you do it in a way that, still allows you to use Zapier right now, but sets you up to maybe remove Zapier from the equation later, right? That's so much of what those are the conversations I like to have. It's like, especially if you're on Starter and the true goal is tens of millions of growth. First of all, don't tell me that budget is a problem, because when we're talking tens of thousands per year, if I were to say 20,000 a year would help you achieve 10 million in growth, I hope that we don't have to, argue about that. Of course, you want the guarantee, but that's where, can you change? Can you own it properly? Can you manage it properly? Nobody's going to do this for you, right? That drives the real results. So And that's what it comes down to. If you think this tool can help you grow to achieve that $10 million goal, that 20, 50, 100, whatever, then should you change? Yes. If scaling is is a goal and you have all these different systems in play, it doesn't scale. You don't have to look far. You don't have to feel far. You don't have to go into deep thought to understand that the more systems you have that aren't talking to each other, the more manual activity you have, the more customer data buried in spreadsheets and email, that doesn't scale. Surprise. Like, so yeah, you should probably change. And just imagine answering those questions for all these different updates, right? So the two at the top, one is just, the integrations, the two, custom object support. Like Caleb said, right? Do you need a custom object? Should you create a custom object? Question number one. Right? 80 plus new and 25 plus updated apps in the HubSpot marketplace. Good luck. And yes, if you're a HubSpot admin, you're somewhat responsible for this. Right? Now you're like 100% responsible for this, for understanding, but you can't do it at the pace it's going right now. This is where, let's apply the questions. The first question to a HubSpot coach: if this is your responsibility to keep up with this, if you're using any of these 80, if you have any of these use cases, the 80 plus, or you're using any of the 25 updated apps, should you invest in a coach? Should you invest in help? Yes. There's no way you can keep up. And it shouldn't be a question of, well, I guess I just can't keep up then. No, because then you get caught off guard. You react to what's in front of you, which never goes as well as when you can plan it. Right? You end up building, right? And we get to this point, two-way invoice sync for QuickBooks Online. Understanding, somebody to help you understand, is this the right time to move? Well, in this case, the answer is yes, because they're going to, remove the original integration. So if that's not in our control, how do you talk to HubSpot to make sure it's working for you? How do you tell them this is the help I need? Teams webinar is a big win too. I like it, Caleb. Yeah, I love this. The Teams and the Microsoft, development, I think is a signal that, HubSpot is making their way upstream. Mid-market and enterprise. Corporate America runs on Microsoft, not Google. So we need that stuff to work. It's not to say that all the Microsoft products are going to work for us, but hey, if we got to use them, it works better if they work with HubSpot. And this one has been fun but challenging, right? Is understanding that, HubSpot's customer base, when I first started talking to them about problems with this, right, it was because a client was asked to switch to the new QuickBooks integration before two-way invoice syncing was live, and it broke their process for a day. Could not send out invoices for a day. That's a big deal. Customers don't like that, and they had to go immediately back to the old integration. right? So, should you do it was answered because HubSpot's changing the product and the way you're doing it now is not going to be available. And just helping answer questions like that and speaking to HubSpot in a way that not for 90% of the customers, at the time it was like 3,500 installs, they did not, they were not having issues. Right. And this is where for me, when I'm generally talking to, you know, people who are probably using QuickBooks a little bit too much, have already outgrown it and might be looking at ERPs. But that's a big scary change too. So that's what I mean. Like you're bombarded by I've outgrown these tools and processes. And I know there is a better way to do what I'm doing. I know QuickBooks is failing me. I know the current integration does not work the way I would love it to, but we've spent a lot of time and a lot of energy getting it to work. And now you want to change it? And we said, okay, we want it to change too, and then we change it and it breaks our process. When you understand that your use case does not match the normal use case, you can leverage that, but there's nuance to that conversation, right? Making sure like HubSpot, one of my things that I love is they're always listening. They're always listening. But if you're in the 10% and not the 90%, the 90% is a lot louder than you usually, right? So you got to speak up in the right way, right? And even though you answered the question, should you do it with HubSpot? You need to explain to them what kind of change management is required, how it's forcing, the way that it is versus some tweaks here and there that could maybe get rid of all that change management. So all of that, when we're talking, in the case of HubSpot, 800 updates last year, they're killing that pace this year, and it's for a good cause, you know, in my opinion, right? In terms of the HubSpot customer platform is in a place where it's more affordable than ever to bring in a tool that you can build your business on and not worry about some crazy managed services requirements, the ability to find somebody that knows their way around the tool is getting easier as the whole ecosystem grows. And that should be your goal with this. Like you should not be your investment, your purchases should be the tool itself while trying to grow the internal infrastructure, which is way easier than it's ever been with HubSpot versus Salesforce and other systems where you don't need a whole systems administration team. You need your usual or maybe some new roles like a website manager and an e-commerce manager and a help desk manager, right? Instead of just admins for everything, right? This is the one place in the business, I think, where admin is supposed to be something, is at the top of the food chain almost. If you talk to some people, especially systems admin, right? But everywhere else in the business, admin is not the person. They're not expected to do, the really impactful work, right? So when we think about the strategy behind this stuff, and that's just going through these questions, and as fast as this platform is going, it's hard to find this. Like, hey, instead of you're naturally going to come to the market and say, "Oh, I saw you guys can do this. Can you tell me how?" Right? And we immediately get into, yeah, we can do that. Like, this is how it works. And, when do you want to buy? Instead, should you do that thing? Why can't you do it now? What's the impact of not doing it now? Right? We don't ask these questions. So we're seeing all these failed onboardings all over the place. And it's not different it's not special to HubSpot. There's an echo chamber on LinkedIn, one, but HubSpot's growing like gangbusters. So we're going to hear a lot of it. But it would be this way for any system because we're not asking these questions first. So again, definitely in this ecosystem, but you could fill in the blank for HubSpot. Should you do it at all? Should you do it with HubSpot? Should marketing, sales, service, RevOps, leadership, IT? Pro tip, the answer is no. Should they be in charge of it? Who should be in charge of it? Should you build it yourself? How much should you buy? And the more service and building and administrative fixes, the more you buy, the more time, energy, effort, and money that you're going to waste. A lot of the perceived cost and the actual cost of this tool is to give you a tool that you can run yourself as a business. And if you choose to do it, the ROI is not comparable to other systems. It will crush anybody in a head-on comparison. With all those questions answered, should you change? Because if should you change is the first question and the answer is yes, and you just answer all these other questions yourself, and you bring in HubSpot and you're like, all right, team, and trust me, I did this. This is what I did. It did not go well. I've learned a lot, and that's why I'm sharing it here. Right? You do the job, you get the feedback. Oh, I think I have a good idea of what the pain is. This is how HubSpot's going to solve it. Go back and do my own, building and baking. And here it is, everybody. Your problems have been solved. All right, I'm going to go start work. What? Oh, it's not working? You don't know? The difference between a drop down and a single text field, single line text? Oh, you're having a problem finding, the big orange button on the screen because you've never used a platform like this before and don't understand that the big orange button is where everything happens usually. Right? It took me a while to understand. That doesn't work. And we point the finger at the users way too often without understanding that they have other stuff to do that is much more important than a tool like HubSpot before they feel the value of HubSpot and can prioritize it properly. And that is on you, the admin, the leader, the team manager. And if you're not clear on the answers to these questions, you will not have an adopted platform. You'll not see the ROI. You will not find the opportunity, and you will not grow better. You might grow. That's going to be painful. It's going to be painful, and you're probably experiencing that pain right now. So instead, let's find the opportunity by asking these questions first, and let's grow. Have a great week, everybody.